Good morning and welcome to the Coffee Break Chat. My name is Susie and I'm the content producer for the AAF. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Russell Iannello, the Head of Technology, and Matthew Puku, Senior Developer of our tech team. Thank you both so much for your time. For all the viewers, feel free to pop in your questions into the Q&A window as we go through the session, and we'll come back to them at the end of the session. Now, before we get started, if you could both give us a brief rundown of your experience and what it is that you do at the AAF.
Thanks, Susie. So I'm Russell Iannello, Head of Technology. I'm responsible for the successful delivery of AAF's technical innovation, software engineering, infrastructure, and cybersecurity. I've been a software engineer for over 15 years. I've worked in many sectors, including aviation, finance, and education.
Thanks so much. Matthew, can you tell us a bit about your experience?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Matthew Puku, and I'm one of the senior devs here on the tech team at AAF. So I've been an engineer for a few years now. I started at a company called Outfit, which is a Brisbane-based private startup, sells business-to-business software, and now I'm here at AAF.
Thank you so much. Now, I understand that you've been doing some work around accessibility for our service, help people access our service rather. Can you tell me a bit more about the work that you've done and how it helps people?
Yeah, for sure. So when users access a service within the Federation, they often go through something that we run in the middle that's called Discovery Service, which you might have seen. You try to sign into a service and we first have to ask, what institution are you coming from? Are you from QUT? Are you from CSIRO? Are you from the AAF? And then once you select one of those options, your organization, it takes you through to sign in through them. So that service is called Discovery Service, and it's been humming along really well for about 7 years now. But there was a problem with it, which is that because of the way the front end was written, it was basically incomprehensible to assistive technology like screen readers. And so users with visual impairments who depend on assistive technology like that basically couldn't use the site. So to solve the problem, we re-implemented the whole front end. So we went from a very JavaScript heavy approach, which used a lot of non-semantic HTML elements like divs and tables and more divs to implement the functionality. And we changed that out for more semantic stuff like buttons, lists, links, and forms. And by doing that, we were able to make it so that people using assistive technologies were able to understand the site just as well as people with perfect vision, and so now they can access the Federation fully.
That's great. Thank you so much. The AAF understands that information and data can be sensitive and needs to be protected. Russell, can you tell me, what does the AAF do to provide secure data for our subscribers?
Sure. So the first thing that I'll say is that keeping our subscribers' data safe and secure is one of the top priorities at the AAF. Before I elaborate on this, I want to talk about our technology stack. So we use a pure AWS-based infrastructure, meaning that we're cloud native. We don't run any servers on premise. There are some advantages to this approach. So by placing our bets on a single cloud provider, we leverage many existing services to better meet the subscriber needs. An example is the AAF's reporting service. It was used to be an inbuilt, custom-built service that we wrote, and we're re-implementing it using AWS QuickSight. So QuickSight is a fully configurable reporting solution. All we have to do is plug in our data, and everything else is there for us. So someone like a business analyst can go in, create reports, create a lot of business value very quickly using QuickSight. So by leveraging cloud technologies, we're making an active choice to purchase capabilities rather than write them ourselves. So our software fleet has a relatively large technical footprint. We have many repositories, many technologies, and lots of moving parts. Our goal is to double down on our efforts with domain-specific projects, and when a capability can be purchased, we do it. So with this approach, we can better meet the needs of our subscribers. So back to protecting our subscribers' data. We leverage the Aws Backup Service to do that. This is another service provided by Amazon. This is a holistic, future-proof backup system which is native to AWS. So we operate a backup policy at a high level of abstraction. So what that means is when a new technical resource comes to our fleet, say a new server, new code repository, this backup system can automatically detect it and back it up. Furthering this, the backup system is implemented as a cross-region and cross-account solution. So what that means is we run all of our servers on one specific geographic region, which is in is in Sydney, should I say. And when we back up, we go to another geographic region, which is in London or the US. So for disaster recovery situations, this is ideal. We have another copy of the data in another place. So enhancing backups improves the AF's ability to recover from technical disasters. We haven't mapped out every single technical disaster, but the ones that we have studied and we want to protect against are cyber attacks, accidental data loss, or infrastructure problems. So utilizing the AF's backup service, we're able to recover faster and more accurately. So high uptime and service availability is critical to run the AF, and the backup service is a great complement to this.
Thanks so much for that comprehensive answer, Russell. It sounds like we've got a lot of work in place to really ensure the security. Matthew, can you please tell me more about other security measures we have in place to keep our subscribers safe?
Yeah, sure. So if you were to look at how security incidents tend to happen in the real world, one of the big causes is just outdated software. So a cyber criminal will run a known attack against a whole bunch of random servers. They'll carpet bomb the whole internet, basically, hoping that someone's running an outdated version and they can compromise the system that way. So to protect against that, the remedy is actually pretty simple. It's to patch. For us, we deliver quite a lot of capability, I think, with a relatively small team. And to do that, we purchase a few capabilities from the cloud, as Russell mentioned. And we also use a lot of open source software. And because we use a lot of open source software, that means that we have a lot of patching to do. So to cope with the workload, we actually do quite a lot of automation. Our systems automatically build new versions of our software with updated dependencies and present them to us. And then we're able to sort of look at the changes, check that they make sense, check that the services still work. And if everything looks good, we just do a few clicks and then the new versions of the software go all the way to the end user without any further intervention from us. And so with that, we're able to do quite a lot of patching with relatively few people. A good example of that would be our cloud service IDP platform, Rapid IDP, which some of you might be familiar with. If you've ever run Shibboleth IDP on-premise under your own Steam, you know that keeping it up to date can be a lot of work. But because of our high automation approach to patching, we have one guy, Jun, who's able to do patches for the entire fleet, and still he has plenty of time to do feature development as well.
We do love John. Shout out to John if you're watching. Just a quick reminder to everybody, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A and we'll get to those at the end of the session. Thanks for that response, Matthew. Now, you did mention that we're using open source software. There have been several reports of open source software repositories being hijacked. How do we go about ensuring we maintain our very high standard and level of security?
Thanks, Susie. So, yeah, one of the biggest emerging threats is a software supply chain attack. As Matthew was saying before, our software is heavily open source, so we leverage a lot of open source repositories. So I'm guessing if you laid out all of our code for all of our projects and you did a bit of an inventory to see what was in it, AF's actual code would be as small as 5 to 10%. So what that means is that remaining code isn't ours and it's not stored the AF, and it's largely outsourced. Our ingredients for our code is largely outsourced. So this sounds clever to leverage other people's work, though it comes with a caveat, and that's a cybersecurity risk. So if someone was to hijack that repository we're using, what would happen is that would propagate into our code and hence the supply chain, and we would become compromised. So supply chain attacks can occur at many levels. It can be the code level, container level, or infrastructure level. So we're investing in a fully automated tool which detects supply chain attacks. These attacks are linked to a vulnerability database, and we're able to assess the impact and the urgency of the vulnerability. The goal is that all supply chain attacks are detected and remedied immediately.
Thanks so much for that. Now, it sounds like the whole team has been very busy ensuring the security of our subscribers and services. Can you tell me a bit more about what the team is up to?
Sure. So one part of our software systems is our OpenID Connect support. So we've run some technical focus groups, and we've seen there's a strong demand for better support of modern authentication protocols. So initially the AEF only supported the SAML protocol, but we developed a hybrid solution where we can basically have subscribers connect to us via OpenID Connect, or there's an older method using JSON Web Tokens. So the advantage of OpenID Connect is that it's a standard. So when you use a standard, you have other people writing libraries against something that's defined and are consistent. So what that means is when you integrate with us, all you have to do is use someone else's library to connect via OpenID Connect. Or if it's through a vendor, let's say something like Salesforce, it's already defined there for you, so it's very easy to connect. The older method we have is using, as I said, the JSON Web Tokens. That's via a Rapid Connect product. This requires custom implementation on the customer side, so we still support it, but OpenID Connect is definitely the way of the future, and that's what we're investing in the tech team. So a part of rewriting our OpenID Connect bridge, there's a self-service function that we're going to introduce. The older piece of software we have to support this bridge, it required a manual support ticket to actually get the customer connected. So the self-service function will allow customers to manage their connection themselves, and it doesn't have to go through the support team, doesn't have to go to the tech team. It's much more streamlined, and I'm really looking forward to getting that feature developed and delivered this year.
That's great. Now, Russell, you did mention that we're moving the reporting capability to AWS QuickSight. What will that mean for reporting, and how will the subscribers benefit from this?
Sure. So QuickSight is just the reporting side of it, but the project is a data analytics project that is its own body of work that we're running in the tech team. And what that is about is looking at all the different events, from authentication events from our identity providers in the Federation. So what the type of information we can get out of that is how often, or how many, say, times a IDP is an authentication event occurs, and also how many times a subscriber, an SP event occurs. We're able to correlate which IDP and SPs are used together. We can use that information to supply internally or externally to our customers so they know how their service or their IDP is used, and basically make better data-driven decisions. That's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you both so much for such an informative session. What we might do now is throw it over to our viewers for some questions to Russell and Matthew. Now, I will have a look here. It doesn't look like we've got any questions at the minute. Oh, here we go. Greg from Murchison Widefield Array. Just wondering if you can talk a bit about CILogon, CO Manage. We currently run our own stack. Any comments about migration?
Sure. We do have a CILogon project with the AAF. We are looking, we have several projects that touch upon that technology, and we may be integrating further with it, but I can't comment any further about that specific. But yeah, happy for another question.
Great. Okay. We've got Philip Wu asking, any plans for two-factor authorization?
Okay. So yeah, there's many places we could put two-factor authentication. I know I could say just off the top of my head, Rapid IDP. That's as Matthew was saying, that's our cloud solution for people to basically have their identity provider hosted. So the traditional model of AF is probably going back 10, 13 years ago, is that subscribers would run their own IDP on premise. So that's its own bit of software. And it's quite burdensome. And what we did is develop the Rapid IDP project to basically take that workload off them, and then we run it, and they give us basically some basic support, and we have it's completely hands off. So it's really great. So Rapid IDP has a proxy mode, which is a new feature we rolled out probably 3 years ago. And what that is able to do is leverage your current SSO solution, let's say Okta, Azure AD, leverage that MFA capability. So if you're a Rapid IDP customer, you can leverage MFA internally, which is really great because there's nothing for us to hold with MFA secrets. It's all over your native MFA solution with your environment. So that's the best in a general sense. I don't know if you have any more specific MFA questions, but
no, we don't seem to have any more questions. I
will note as well that the virtual mode of Rapid IDP, which we use for some of the smaller institutions, just like the relatively small research institutes, that also does MFA out of the box, but that's where we handle it. That's for customers that don't have their own identity solution built that they want to hook into.
Thank you so much. And thank you both so much for your time. If we didn't get around to answering any of your questions, or if you do have any more questions, please feel free to email us at inquiries@aaf.edu.au. We will be putting a copy of this entire session up on our YouTube channel if you had someone that you wanted to share it with, and we'll probably put something up in the newsletter as well. Thank you both so much for your time. Did you want to make any final remarks before we go?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
Thanks very much. We'll see you at the next coffee break chat.